Hello and welcome to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Kunal and here I talk about ideas on acquiring a foreign language. Let's talk about something interesting today, and what I wanted to talk to you about was basically reading in a foreign language. I notice that as I read in French and as I read in Spanish, I am unable to sit for the same number of hours that I do when I read something in English. I remember a couple of months ago, I decided to finish a novel in one sitting. It was George Orwell's 1984. And I went to a restaurant, I sat with that book, and I sat there until I was finished with the novel. Took me a couple of hours. I don't remember how many, but what I do remember was I was able to finish the whole book in a single session. Occasionally, I might have taken a 5 or 10 minute break, but that was it. But this is not the same level of energy I can bring to learning Spanish or French when it comes to reading. So, if you have faced the same issue, I want to shed light on this issue and I want to make clear what can we do to in order to read longer and be able to read without feeling as tired. Now, give before I go on and give you the solution of this, let's analyze the problem, let's break it down and see why this happens. If you speak English at the level of a native speaker, you will not find so much trouble reading as you will when you're reading, let's say, Portuguese or German, when you're learning these as foreign languages, right? So, the reason you are a bit stressed and you're a bit tired is your comprehension. Essentially, what is happening is you are coming across a lot of words that you do not understand, and when you read text that has a lot of words you do not understand, what is happening is you are losing your focus or your interest, because instead of concentrating on the whole text itself, now your attention is going towards the words you don't know and trying to understand what they mean. When you're reading in a language that you really speak really well, you're going to come across very few words that you don't know, and even when you do come across them, they're not an obstacle and they won't stop you from enjoying the content of the very text that you're reading, right? But this is not happening when you're learning a foreign language. Let's say you're learning Spanish right now and you're trying to develop a habit of reading regularly. And you notice that if you can read in English for 3 hours, some novel or something, in Spanish you get tired and you say, I'm done. I give up after, let's say, 20 minutes or 30 minutes. This is quite normal. And the reason this is normal is you simply do not have the training to read so long in that language. Now, let me give you a metaphor from sports. Let's say if you have conditioned yourself to sprint your whole life, to run really fast, let's say in the 100 meters or the 200 meters. When it comes to running a marathon, you will not be able to maintain that pace, because if you try and sprint during a marathon, you're going to get tired very fast and you're not going to be able to finish the race. The same way, when you start reading in a new language, what you have to do is you have to develop that mental stamina to be able to read for hours and hours, and that comes in parts. That really doesn't happen overnight, and what needs to be done is you need to be very conscious of what you're reading, and sometimes rereading the same content helps a lot. See, when you read the same content again and again, you understand it much faster because it is familiar. So what you read once can be read twice, thrice, or 4 times, and then you can progress to some different text. What you're doing there is you're building your stamina and your confidence as it concerns reading. And what most beginners do, as they shouldn't be doing in my opinion, is they just experiment with endless variety, right? So they want to read everything under the sun, and when they try that, they try it with a lot of enthusiasm, but they find out that enthusiasm slowly fades away, right? Like a candle that loses its flame. What's essentially happening here is competence is not being built. I understand it's important to be curious, but we have to amalgamate curiosity with a bit of discipline. So you can't just have a mind that is completely open. You be open to certain things, and afterwards you narrow down your focus on one thing more than another. So when you start reading, be very conscious of what you're reading and how many times you're reading it. So let's say today you read a text on football. Tomorrow, instead of reading a text on the economy, why not go back to the same text on football and see how do you relate to the text this time? Did you need a dictionary this time, or were you able to understand the words without the use of a dictionary? As you put this into practice, you'll find that every time you reread a text, you can understand it much better and you can understand it much faster. And what this does is it builds a certain level of competence, it builds a certain level of stamina, and this is how reading becomes more enjoyable. This is what I suggest you can do. However, if you absolutely abhor the idea of rereading the same text, what I suggest is you start accessing content that you really like instead of accessing content you think is important. Now, not every word that is important to your vocabulary will be found in the content that you like, but exposing yourself to your target language in the content you like, even though it may not have the same richness of vocabulary as other texts, what it does is it builds that stamina of reading in the language you're trying to acquire, and slowly you find that reading in the language you're trying to acquire is not a challenge anymore. It doesn't stress you out, it doesn't tire you, and these are the two ways you can implement to get more stamina when it comes to reading in your foreign language. I understand that the metaphor may not apply 100%, but you do get the idea. So what I'd like you to do is try and put this into practice and then tell me the results, and I think this should work out for you. That's it. Thank you for watching this video.